Star Wars 7x7 episode 2017. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about that movie that came out in 2017. That would be The Last Jedi, and how family plays into it, or in this case, doesn't play into the movie. Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. So here we are again, the third of this last run of 5 episodes, talking about family and how it manifests as part of the driving forces and themes in the Star Wars movies, because we are at episode 2017, the year in which The Last Jedi was released. That's the one we're going to talk about today. And so far, of all the movies that we've talked about so far, I would say that family plays, in some sense at least, the least, the smallest, the the littlest role, if you will, in the proceedings. In a way, right? Because with Rey, of course, this is the movie where we find out, at least in this movie, that she came from nobody, that her parents were nobody. They were filthy junk traders who sold her off for drinking money. And they don't matter, and she doesn't matter. At least this is what we are told by Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, in a very climactic moment in the movie. And this reinforces what Rey tells Luke about herself when he says, who are you? Why did they send you? Where are you from? Why are you particularly important? And she says, I'm nobody, I'm no one. This is not just her saying, I'm nobody, I'm no one, but this is also her own self-talk manifesting. I mean, yes, she realizes that she has something in her, that there is something powerful happening, but she does not necessarily believe herself that she has a, giant place in the proceedings, and that is exactly what Kylo Ren ends up reflecting back to her, which also, as Rian Johnson has talked about in various interviews, this is the thing that she may fear hearing the most, having that suspicion, that, negative self-talk, if you will, confirmed for her. And additionally, confronting for real and for finally the possibility that her parents aren't coming back. Like Maz Kanata said, that there isn't anybody who's going to be coming back for her. The belonging is ahead. She is utterly cut off from any potential connection to family that she may have been hoping for, that she may have spent years marking little lines on a metal wall inside her fallen AT-AT in the desert. They're just not coming back for her because there is nobody to come back for her whatsoever. This is the most difficult thing that she could hear, not just in the movie, but in this particular moment. But she's already been sort of acting that way finally to begin with. As we talked about in yesterday's episode, there was a point at which she essentially accepted the possibility that the belonging was ahead, because she didn't go back to Jakku. She went to Ahch-To to try and get Luke. And she didn't leave Ahch-To to go back to Jakku. She went to find where the resistance was and confront Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, to try and deal with that whole situation. Meanwhile, on the other side of the equation, we have Kylo Ren, who killed his father in the last movie. That was supposed to solidify his descent into the dark side, but it did not. In fact, as Snoke rightly notes, the deed split his spirit to the bone, and that's not a good thing, at least as far as, the whole dark side journey goes. Instead of being able to live out the dream, the fantasy of becoming the next Vader, of becoming even better than his grandfather, to take advantage of that bloodline, as Snoke puts it, it turns out that Kylo Ren is just a child wearing a mask, or at least this is the way that Snoke drags him about the whole situation, and Kylo doesn't take too kindly to that and just decides to smash the mask and be different, try and rebel, if you will, that way. But then he gets a chance to redeem himself, if you will, because he gets Leia in his crosshairs, and yet, And yet, he is not able to pull the trigger. And so at that point, we know that Kylo Ren's journey to the dark side may never be complete, or at the very least, it's not going to go the way that we think. And at that point, that's the point you can argue that another type of family becomes a driving factor in this movie. And I'll talk about that after the break. Stay tuned. Hey Rebel Rouser, I've made some changes to the asteroid belt level at patreon.com/SW7X7, and they are all with sponsors in mind. So if you want to get the word out about your business, your product, your service to a dedicated Star Wars audience, then please check out patreon.com/SW7X7 and look for the asteroid belt level for details. Again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7. Welcome back. So we've talked in previous family-related episodes about the family that you create as opposed to the family that you're born into, and how that can be a driving factor and a motivator for characters in Star Wars movies, particularly on the good guy side of the equation. Well, this is an instance where even on the bad guy side of the equation that becomes a factor, because on that side, you have Kylo Ren, who is utterly and completely cut off from his existing family. He has estranged himself. He's killed his father. He hasn't quite killed his mother, but he has certainly decided that he is not going to save her either. He is not going to be connected with her. Snoke is a bad actor who just wants to tear him down, and yeah, that's not gonna work for him. He needs some sort of connection to, make his life meaningful to some degree, and that's why he tells Rey that, even though she's not important in the story, she's important to him. And then on the light side of the house, you have Rey, who has it confirmed for her that there is no belonging behind her. There is no family to go home to, or that could be coming back for her. Her only opportunity for family in this particular moment is with somebody who understands her, which is Kylo Ren. So it's an especially difficult choice when she is invited by Kylo Ren to come over to the dark side, because she's made a connection with him. She doesn't have any other connection in this whole galaxy. The belonging that she hoped was ahead of her with Luke Skywalker turned out to be no good. So, yeah, this ultimately becomes a very difficult proposition for her, and she's able to resist it and go into the possibility that she may be, the only person she has to rely on in this whole galaxy. Well, maybe except for Chewbacca. And that, by all appearances, is the thing that seemingly finally drives Kylo Ren over the cliff into the dark side and committing to that for real. Whereas Rey, it just solidifies her resolve to the point where by the end of the movie, it seems like she is cutting off that connection with Kylo Ren for good. At least so we think. So we'll talk about the rest of that whole story in a couple episodes from now. But for now, that is going to do it for our conversation about family in The Last Jedi. And that's going to do it for this episode as well. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2020 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.